the Beauty Matters with me, Lin Hussin, on ALB UK TV. Today, I have two special guests, Sally-Ann, pageant historian, a judge, and she is the author of 3 best-selling books about the pageant world. And we have also April, our second special guest, who's Miss Great Britain 2020. She also works as a bridal stylist, a designer. Her designs are showcased at London Fashion Week twice. Hello, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How's the day so far?
It's fine now. We had a little bit of technical trouble, didn't we? But we've got there in the end, and it's a beautiful day.
Sally-Ann, I will start with you.
Okay.
You have a huge experience in the pageant industry. I want you to introduce yourself to people about how you started.
Well, I mean, this was a childhood passion, really. I mean, I started when I was very young, and I caught sight of the last 10 minutes of Miss United Kingdom, and I was absolutely captivated from that moment on. I mean, up until then, I didn't know what pageants were, I didn't know what beauty queens were, but I was absolutely captivated, and it was an obsession, really, that's carried on to this day, and it enabled me to write 3 books about the beauty queens that made the headlines, and as a result of that, I was asked to judge, and then that's carried on to this day. And so, all this encyclopedic knowledge that I carried in my poor little head, for all those years, I've actually come to some good use now.
And now you are the judge of Miss Great Britain, and we have April joining us. Hi, April.
Yes.
Hello. You need to tell me about how you get involved. Was it your first pageant?
It was not my first pageant, no. When I was a teenager, I actually went to the clothes show live, and they had a little stand there, and it was for, I think it was a Miss Teen Queen or Miss Teen Great Britain, something like that. And I was like, oh, a beauty pageant from the UK. I didn't really know much about it. Like in the UK, I'd only seen it, in America and on some like TV programs and stuff like that. So I thought I'd give it a go. Unfortunately, I didn't get to compete in the finals because I went on holiday with my family. Mm-hmm. But I thought, you know what, when I grow up and get a little bit older and sort of like study pageants a little bit more, I'll give it a go. So I entered my first pageant. I think it must have been like 10 years ago now. That makes me feel a little bit old.
So, April, you as well have a huge experience in the pageant industry. But I want to make a small comparison with you, Sally-Ann. You've been through it and you know all the details and how things are changing. So can you tell us a bit more about how beauty pageants evolved?
Well, I mean, they've changed so much in all the time that I've been following them, because I was following them in the 70s, and then I competed in the 80s, and then just towards the end of that, that's when the tide started turning about people's opinion in this country about pageants. I mean, if you look back, I don't know whether you've seen the film Misbehaviour, but I know that April's seen it, and it portrays the contestants like cattle. I mean, they were treated very politely, but they were just pushed around and expected to stand on stage and turn and show their bottoms and what have you. And when it got to the sort of mid-80s, the feminists sort of won that battle, and the TV companies said, that's enough, we're not showing any more pageants. And they've evolved now to a degree where the main thrust of pageants is about the charity work and the achievements that the women can actually achieve themselves. And it's less about sort of trying to make the best of a career or trying to make money or trying to marry well, as happened in the 60s and 70s. And it's more now about a sort of a personal achievement that women feel. It's about the fun that they can have. And it's also just about a sort of a personal challenge, really. And that's how it's changed so much in those sort of 20, 30 years.
And April, do you agree with the changes since you started in pageants like 10 years ago? Did you notice the changes yourself?
I have the changes that I've seen. Obviously, they've opened it up to older women now. Obviously, Miss Great Britain being one of those pageants who have opened up a Ms Division. Also, I'm seeing a lot more diversity within the pageants, which is absolutely amazing.
I think we are all noticing the diversity now.
It's
definitely.
As a designer myself, it's something I support hugely. So to see this happening, it's just, it's really, really, really amazing.
Sally-Ann, people say pageant is a word you cannot make friends at. What do you think of it?
Oh, I mean, I completely disagree. I mean, there's always going to be one or two who take things really badly when they don't win. There always is. I mean, when I competed, I saw it myself. But I think on the whole, especially when, I've been involved with the Miss Great Britain organisation for 6 years now, and you just see the warmth of the contestants and the friendliness. And I think that's something that you can't ever take away. There's always going to be a winner, but there's always going to be such a lovely bond that continues years afterwards. They last a lifetime, some of them.
April, did you experience that yourself?
100%. I think that's why I've kept going back to pageants, especially the Miss Great Britain pageant, because I've met so many amazing friends. It's such like a warm and friendly atmosphere. And obviously people's perception of it is like, oh, it must be bitchy, it must be really catty, but it's not. Some of my best friends who I've known for 10 years have come from pageants, and I literally cannot imagine my life without them now. And that's thanks to pageants.
Now I want an honest answer. Is there a lady inspired you as a finalist and you thought she's going to win? Like, she's inspirational?
Throughout pageants as a whole?
Or give me example of the last pageant you entered.
Well, it was obviously I mean, I was always inspired a little bit by Olivia Colpo. She's a very petite beauty queen, and for me, being a petite beauty queen as well, it just goes to show that you don't have to be a certain height or look a certain way in order to win a pageant. Again, dipping into the diversity side of things. So for me to win a pageant standing at like 5'5", 0.5 was a huge achievement, and it is just showing that diversity is becoming even more of a popular thing within pageants, and I just love it.
Yeah, that has changed so much. I mean, when Eric Morley ran Miss World, he specified a certain height and a certain type and a certain size. And he would actually say to a contestant, you are too fat. I mean, this just would not happen now. It is shocking to read some of what went on.
You can really just be comfortable and confident with who you are and own that. And I think if you do that, then you that's all you need, basically.
Absolutely.
Beauty pageants evolved a lot, but Sally-Ann, from your own experience, do you think like there's still things missing? And how do you see it evolving in the coming 5 years, 10 years from now?
I think it's mainly, I mean, like April said, there's so much diversity now. I mean, I think back to the 70s when the winner of Miss World had to resign because she was a married mother. And now they're welcomed. They're welcomed in so many pageants, whether you're a single mum, whether you've got children, married, divorced. It's changed so much. I think the only thing really that needs changing is probably the attitude of people who, you've still got the detractors who say it's sexist and it's demeaning and you shouldn't be judging women against women. I think that's the only thing that needs to change in this country. I think so many pageant organisers have got so many systems for everybody, even for men. There's pageants for men now. They can't do a lot more. It's mainly about changing the perception of the public, I think.
Yeah.
And for you now as a judge, what do you look for? When you chose April, why did you choose her? April for me just exuded everything that a Miss Great Britain could be. She was confident, she was warm, she was friendly. You see often on stage, people tend to go a little bit over the top in their sort of walking and how they hold themselves. And it's actually, for me, less is more. And when you can exude such confidence and such poise on stage, you really do have the X factor. And I think also in April's interview, she just came across as so eloquent and so interesting. And the 3 minutes that we had just went past in an
absolute choice. And, you know, I've judged a lot of pageants now, and sometimes those 3 minutes are a very long time.
So do you think like people try, or ladies try to remember the answers, so it's become more of a memory test instead of like saying what they really feel?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think that's a sign of somebody who's not very experienced. I remember one contestant, and she came in and she was like a robot with her answers. And I said to her afterwards, try and be a bit more natural. And she carried on. And 2 years later, she won an international title. And it really is just about being as natural as you can and being as prepared as you can, but just being eloquent and just being yourself and just being confident and carrying on. I mean, April won Miss Great Britain. I think it was your third attempt, April. Yeah, exactly. So it just goes to show that the more you do and the more you experience, that the more you can progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. April, you have won the title. Yeah. And what was your aims? Like, now coronavirus changed the plans, but when you won the title and you wanted to you wanted to do changes, what were the changes you wanted to do?
Well, I've actually been able to successfully do some of the things that were on my list of things that I wanted to do with the title. I wanted to become an ambassador for Bullies Out charity. Obviously, being a victim of bullying myself, I have a very strong connection to it, and I've managed to do that even in lockdown and be able to reach out to people also in lockdown who may be struggling at this time. So that's been a really nice, heartwarming thing to do during this, you know, negative time right now. My other goal is, obviously, I touched upon the fact that I support, you know, models of diversity within the fashion industry, being a designer. It's something that, like me being a designer, I have the power to change it. And I feel now that I'm been given the Miss Great Britain title, it's just going to enable my voice to be heard on a much higher level than perhaps what it would have before. So I can reach like a much wider audience and hopefully help make this change.
April, you are a bridal designer, and how long have you been doing it for?
Oh my goodness, bridal design. I started designing like all sorts of things when I graduated from university, and then I sort of found my niche, bridal. So I'd say I've been doing bridal for about 5 years now, but it's the one area of fashion that I just know it's for me. It's where my passion lies. So yeah, I love it.
They are fabulous designs, honestly, absolutely beautiful.
Now during the show, we will see some of your designs.
Ooh.
Sally-Ann, talking about, you chose April. She's a fashion designer. She has experience, let's say, in pageant industry for 10 years. For ladies who are just like starting now, or they want to enter a pageant, but it is their first experience, what do you advise them?
Well, the first thing I always advise is go and watch that pageant. You can't possibly know what it's about unless you actually go and watch it, go and see what they look for, what the contestants are like, what the whole ambience is like. You know, that's just something that's really, really important. I think, you know, getting some training is very helpful as well, because it just gives you a little bit of confidence on stage. I'm not so sure interview training is particularly helpful. It can be for some, but I think a sort of stagecraft, a couple of hours of training will help a lot. But again, it's more about learning from what you have done. So if you enter and you don't win, you can look back and see what you might have done better, you might have done differently. And I think that's the most important thing. But certainly go and watch the pageant that you want to enter.
Is that what you did, April, when you wanted to compete in Miss Great Britain?
Yes, I mean, I had followed Miss Great Britain for years. Obviously, when Gemma and Kate took it over, I entered for the first time and I absolutely loved it. It was literally a life-changing experience. So I went back a couple of years later, sort of wanted to work on myself. I placed first runner-up again. And then I thought my time was over, because I thought, oh no, that's it, I'm too old for pageants now. So I stepped away from it. But if something's meant to be, it will be. I'm a huge believer in that. And then Kate and Gemma announced that they had opened a Ms. category. I think I was probably the first person to apply for it because I'm so in love with the system, and I just knew that this could be my moment. So I just went in as 100% myself, not going in this time, you know, trying to be what I thought they were looking for. I just wanted to be my absolute, you know, true self. And if I couldn't win it like that, then it wasn't for me. But luckily, it was.
Congratulations.
It was such strong competition. I mean, this was the first Ms. And there were so many, you know, sort of like vintage contestants who'd won national titles before. I mean, one of them was a former Miss Northern Ireland and what have you. It was a really tough competition, but, you know, April absolutely smashed it.
Thank you. There were so many inspirational, amazing women in it. Like, it was honestly such an honour, you know, to win it.
Sally-Ann, it's the first time they do Miss Great Britain, and you are the head judge for the pageant since 2014.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is when you are going to choose a Miss Great Britain, do you look for different things in comparison to choose Miss Great Britain, or is it the same? Because as I'm aware, it is like different age, like different maturity. Do you look for different things, or is it the same?
I think really it's choosing the best ambassador for a Miss title. For example, you know, in Miss Great Britain, contestants can be as young as 18, and that's very difficult to compare to somebody who's 27. So I think with the Miss category, it's really nice because they were generally most of you, I think, April, were about the same sort of age group. There was a couple that were slightly older, but I think it's an ambassador for Miss, so that older women, I mean, April, you're only 31 for goodness sake, but older women can say, I can do this. You know, there's no age limit on beauty. There's no age limit on confidence. You know, I can do this. And I think it's about being a role model, an ambassador for the slightly older woman. And I think it's going to be an incredibly popular category in years to come. I really do.
We wish you all the best, April. You definitely deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. She does. Yeah.
Now, in terms of charities, did you have the choice of choosing the charities you want to support, or is it depend on the pageant system?
So during the competition, Miss Great Britain worked with their two chosen charities. One was Alex's Wish and the other was Cancer Research. But after that, obviously, I will continue to support both of these charities. But I have, like I said before, became an ambassador of Bullies Out and also a patron of Seed. They are two charities that are extremely close to my heart. So if I can work with a charity that I have a connection to, I know that I can, you know, do a lot of positive things with it.
And what do you aim after winning the title?
Well, my aim obviously is to continue working with these two exciting charities. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve as well, so stay tuned for those. But for me, I really want to, you know, just spread the word of positivity, you know, during lockdown, reach out and help as many people as I can, really. And inspire and encourage people to never give up on their dreams. You know, I had this dream and I kept coming back and I fought for it. I never gave up.
Determination.
Yeah, determination. You know, no matter how hard someone's life may have been, their background, you know, anything like that, if you've got a goal in life and you just believe in yourself, then you definitely can achieve it.
Yeah, I think there's this fallacy that you have to, you know, come from quite a sort of wealthy background to, you know, afford all these amazing dresses and what have you. And it's really, really not true. It really is about the person that you are. And I mean, April, I know you make all your gowns for all your pageants, and you know that's amazing. Yeah.
Saves me a few pennies at least.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm stitching my gowns together at 2 a.m. in the morning, but it's totally worth it.
Sally-Ann, what you mentioned about like you need to come from a certain background or you need to be wealthy to enter it, that's a really huge point, because many people think that pageant is for certain ladies who can afford it, and you need to work hard, as the competition is difficult, so you need to spend more. So
I think that's something that a lot of contestants think. I think they think they've got to sort of import massively expensive dresses from abroad, and they really don't. It really isn't about that. It's not about the dress. It's about the person in the dress. And I think, you know, April's demonstrated that really well by designing her own dresses, which are just fabulous, and they're completely unique. And I would love to see a pageant in which the evening gown round is a recycled dress that you've worn before, or that you've even bought from a charity shop. I just think that would be a really nice touch, to be honest. Yeah.
If there is a round you want to add, what it will be? Like, we know there is talent. We have like in some pageants there's like a fashion round, a bikini round, and the gowns. If you have a round you would love to add, what it will be?
Oh, well, I'm very big on the interview round. I really hope that every pageant will allow some interviews on stage, which Miss Great Britain does. I know that they've got a lot of trouble with timing. You know, you've got to set a certain time limit, and the Miss Great Britain interviews take place the day before. But I think being able to see a contestant on stage and talking is really important, because you can see somebody and you think they might not have much of a chance, and then they come on stage and they start talking and you think, wow, and it transforms your opinion. It really does. It's a great leveler.
So interview rounds in the final, that'd be great.
That's right. I mean, there are pageants and you don't see any interviews at all. You see them the day before because the judges interview the contestants during the rehearsal, but you don't actually see them at all on stage. And that's not the case with Miss and Miss Great Britain, but there are pageants, and I just think I wish the audience could have seen these girls, heard these girls speak.
Sally-Ann, we know that pageants in some countries are bigger than the other, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about it in England? Because if I'm watching beauty pageants and I compared it to a different country, I will see like it's a huge, like people see it as like they follow the title holder, what she's doing. Maybe it's not as much here. Do you agree with it?
I agree entirely, and this is what's changed so much. I mean, when I was growing up, you couldn't open a newspaper without seeing a beauty queen. She wasn't doing anything, she was just posing. So it might say Miss Liverpool feeding the animals at the zoo, and that was it. And every single week there was a pageant on television, and they were absolutely huge. They were part of everybody's life. And I think because of this this change in attitude, because of the feminist movement and the TV executives deciding that they just couldn't show them on TV anymore, they fell out of favour. And I think an awful lot of normal people in the street don't even know they exist anymore. Whereas in Asia and in South America, they're still seen as a stepping stone to riches and a better life. And I think that's where the big difference lies. They're still very big over there. Whereas here, you know, you're almost ashamed to say that you might judge a pageant or you've won a pageant. And it's a pity, because they're thinking about the old pageants in the old days. They're not thinking about modern pageants and what the winners achieve.
And what do you think, April? Do you agree that it is not taking
100%, 100%. And it's such a shame, because we do so many good things. And I think if everyone knew that or was open to knowing that, then it would be such a positive thing. But it is such a shame. I really, really hope that one day we can get back there. Because I feel like we're obviously kind of a little bit behind now, obviously, with the times, which is a shame. But yeah, fingers crossed, if I have anything to do with it, or my fellow queens do, then hopefully, you know, we can bring it back up.
That's right. And we need, you know, it's such a miserable time at the minute. It's really grim and everyone's really worried and anxious, and a bit of glamour, a bit of light-hearted glamour is what we need. Everybody needs this at the minute.
And I'm seeing in social media many beauty queens are trying to post photos about body positivity and showing like faces without makeup, or if they have a problem, they share it and say like we do also pass through struggles. And
yeah, that's right. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, that is so important. You know, you might look at a winner and think, I can't possibly look like her. Yeah. But if you see some of them without makeup, or maybe showing off, some of them have been showing their acne. They've been very brave in doing that. And it just makes you feel, you know, they're just like you and I, which is lovely. It's somebody that you feel that you can look up to, but also relate to as well.
Yeah, April, do you do things like that to encourage other ladies?
I do. I absolutely do, because like Sally-Ann said, I mean, it's not how you look on the outside. I mean, I'm definitely not the most beautiful person in Great Britain, and like, do you know what I mean? Crazy. But I put things on my social media without makeup. I've done some fitness things. I mean, I'm definitely not the healthiest person. I'm just happy. I think as long as you're happy and healthy, that's all that matters, you know. Instagram, we've all fallen victim to it, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Of seeing the perfect image on social media, and it's just not true. But it's hard to sort of tell yourself this isn't real when that's all that you see. So when, you know, big influential people do come online and they do post like these real images, it's nice to see, and it sort of makes you realize, okay, you know, I can just be myself. It's fine. We don't have to be perfect all the time.
That's right. Absolutely.
We want to look nice. We want to look pretty.
But
I've noticed during doing my shows for a long time now, I've noticed that sometimes social media can affect us in a negative way, because some ladies think that they need to do more, they need to compete with what they are seeing on social media. It's in a bit harmful.
It is, yeah. I mean, it can have so many, you know, negative impacts on people. That's why it's super important, you know, for me to represent, you know, diversity within the fashion industry, so that we can see more diversity across, you know, our magazine covers, you know, and our promotional campaigns and etc. You know, and show like a real natural side to women instead of the image that is portrayed online probably like 90% of the time, you know.
Yeah, show more of the reality. Sally-Ann, if you will give yourself advice to yourself when you started in pageants, like we start at 20 years old, what it will be, what you're gonna tell yourself, like if I should have done that, or maybe that's what make a good beauty queen. So what advice you will give yourself?
I think the reason I stopped entering pageants, I entered about 7 or 8, so I finished when I was about 22. And I quite regret that now, because I did quite enjoy them. I mean, I didn't do particularly well. I only won one of them, but I did quite enjoy them, but I stopped. And I wish I'd carried on. And I think knowing what I know now, if you can just be confident and, like April said, happy in how you are, happy in how you look, I think you can get an awful lot more, not just out of pageants, but out of life as well. And I always say that, to me, confidence is beauty. People say, what is beauty? And I say, to me, confidence is beauty. And if you're confident in yourself and happy in yourself, I think that can sort of take you through so many different parts of life. And I think because I just didn't feel particularly confident, that's why I didn't maybe push myself as hard as I could. So in a way, I think I just would have said that just carry on, get exactly what I say to the contestants now. Carry on, you know, learn from your experience and just harness that confidence. And then you'll go an awful long way, not just in pageants, but in every area of life.
Do you think confidence in beauty world is something you learn, or is it something you should have from the start, or is it in time you will learn it?
I think it's something that comes in time. I mean, I think you can learn to be confident. You can learn to, you know, sort of fake it to make it. But I think it's something that comes with time, which is why I'm so happy that the lower age limit for the upper age limit for pageants has been lifted, because there's so many contestants who might get to their 30s and they feel the best they've ever felt. But of course, they can't enter the mainstream ones anymore. So I think that it's great to have older contestants now in the pageant system, because confidence does come in with time.
Is that what you thought, April?
I mean, I can 100% relate to that, because when I competed in my first pageant, I was 21 when I started in pageants. I mean, that's quite old. And I had zero confidence. I remember standing backstage thinking, what am I doing? But it was almost like I faced a fear. You know, I pushed myself to do it. And from that, I gained, you know, my inner confidence and my inner self-belief. And each time I competed, you know, whether I placed high, low, in the middle ground, each time I learned something else about myself. And I think now, obviously, being more of a mature pageant girl, you know, I'm 100% confident and I know who I am. So it does take, you know, that progression. It does take time. If you're not some people aren't born with like this inner confidence.
Yeah.
Some people have to, you know, develop it over time. And I honestly believe that I wouldn't be the person I am today if pageants hadn't entered my life.
Yeah, it's because, you know, when I'm judging the Miss and the Ms and Mrs divisions, it's my favourite division because these contestants have so much to talk about because they've got this life experience and they've got some really interesting stories. And I'm not saying that the younger contestants haven't, because they have. But as you meet the older contestants, it's fascinating because they've done so much.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. I have now we are cut recording. I have covered the main topics, but now before I end the show, I want it to be more something each of you wants really to talk about, something that it hasn't been out yet in the show. So I'll start with you, Sally-Ann. Is there anything you think like it should be out, we should talk about it, and we didn't?
Out in the show?
Yeah.
Something that we haven't talked about.
Something you think is important for, especially for ladies who wanting to join a beauty pageant and they are taking information from here.
I would say, I mean, my sister, she's, you know, the complete opposite to me. She's very anti-pageant and what have you. She's pleased for me and what I do and everything, but she's quite anti-pageant. And I've always said to her, I wish you'd come along and I wish you'd bring my 18-year-old niece and you can see for yourself exactly what it's like now. I would love to say to people who have this image of pageants back as they were in the 60s and 70s to come along and see what they're like now and to see the interview round, because so many of these younger girls say it set them up for life. They could go for job interviews and they were so eloquent and so confident because they'd been grilled by this panel of pageant judges, and they said it really does help them in life. So that's what I'd like to do, you know, if you just come along and see.
So the question will be more about if you will give a message for people who are anti-pageants.
Anti-pageant, yeah, that's right.
And April.
I mean, that was a great thing to say. I had a similar thought, but
okay, I will ask you about people who face your title in a negative way, in if it is in real life, if it is in social media.
What does that mean? Sorry.
Like for people who are negative about beauty pageants and try to spread their negativity on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, back to it. Sally-Ann, I'm gonna start with you. Lizzie, I'm ready.
I think that the message I'd like to give is that if you're very anti-pageant and you think about it as it was in the 60s and the 70s and what have you, come along, come and see a pageant, come and see one for yourself and see what these amazing women are doing now, not just for themselves, but for all these charities. And I've met so many contestants who've been grilled by these huge pageant judges, a panel of pageant judges, absolutely petrified out of their wits, and they said it's helped them so much in later life when they go for job interviews, and it gives them such confidence and such eloquence and qualities that they can carry on with for life. So I would say to any detractor, please come along, it's changed so much, and just see for yourself.
That's amazing, and we wish that people take the pageant world in to look to it in a different way. And as you said, just come and see how.
Come and follow.
Come and see.
Come and see. Roll up.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking, April?
I mean, Sally-Ann has put that perfectly. You know, I think I myself am living proof that, you know, pageants are an incredible thing. You know, I've had so many amazing opportunities in my life I never would have had without pageants. And the main thing for me is that I've grown as a person. And again, the interview techniques that I've learned, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but every interview that I've ever had, I've always got the job. And that is because of what I've learned through pageants. So I take my hats off to them. I wouldn't be here without them. I recommend them to any woman. They're so empowering. They really, really are.
Thank you so much for both of you to be amazing guests on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Thanks for having us.
I have just a special message for you, Sally-Ann. I met you in Miss Great Britain.
Indeed.
You left an impact on me, on my personality.
Oh.
I really, yeah, I'm so pleased to meet you. And I didn't feel when I entered for the interview, I thought like the judges will be like just in a way like not really nice to me, or if I didn't say the right things, or maybe I should, I don't know, like have a memory test and just say a list of things
like something cow.
When I entered there, and it just all gone, and I started talking because of having a judge like you sitting on the other side of the table and speaking to me as like, tell me about you.
Oh, well, that is so lovely, Lynn. Thank you so much for a lovely thing to say. And look at you now. I mean, look at you hosting this show. I mean, that is amazing. That takes a lot. So you've done incredibly well, and thank you for that.
And that's my final message for people who think that pageant is just like about a showing off and it doesn't do any favor. I've started with pageants and it helped me a lot. Yeah. Now I'm a TV presenter, but I've gained lots of my confidence from pageants.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant to hear. And April as well. I mean, you know, the years that I've known April, you know, you were so much. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of you both, really.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, April. You definitely deserve it. We wish you all the luck as amazing designer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Stay safe.
And you.
Thank you. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.